everybody. My name is Kat Shepherdson, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the volunteer pool, which is a really exciting service which is part of the Volunteer Cambs site. I'm really enthusiastic about this as it gives groups another string in their bow to find new volunteers for their groups. And if done properly, the volunteer pool works well for groups. And I know this firsthand as a trustee for a group which has used this resort to find new volunteers in the work that we do. So let's talk a little bit more about what it is and how to make the most of it. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about what the volunteer pool is, where to find it on the system so you can access it, because some of you may not have even come across it before, how to use it to approach volunteers, how also to make the most of it, and then how to start an effective conversation up you are using it. So what is the volunteer pool? So like I said, it's what it does on the tin really. It's a group of potential volunteers who have come forward and are willing to be approached by groups like yours. You get to see a short bio on them and then the opportunity to reach out to them, suggesting a volunteer role that you're looking to fill. So it's worth noting that some groups have decided to use the pool to promote their services. This is a little pointless because only groups can see who is in the volunteer pool. Members of the public can't. And so if you're uploading your volunteer organisation, looking for any volunteers that are interested, only groups are going to see that. And so therefore you won't get anywhere. It just saves you hassle to find volunteers. Use your profiles, which you are all doing, because that's public facing and that will get to those members of the public. Saying that, however, we have actually had businesses that have used the volunteer pool to advertise themselves and the groups of volunteers that they may have looking for a volunteer role. So there are individuals, but we have had groups on there as well. So if you're looking for a group of volunteers, not just an individual one, then actually it might be really worth going onto the volunteer pool. Overall, the volunteer pool is a great way to feel active in your search for volunteering. It can sometimes feel a little passive when you just sit there waiting for volunteers to come to you through all the advertisement that you've put out there, the events that you've attended and so on. So this can actually give you some power in feeling that you're actually part of that search for new volunteers. It effectively is a pool of volunteers willing to want to volunteer potentially for your organisation. But to make it successful, there are some things that you need to think about to make sure it's as effective as possible in the time that you've got. So before we get to that bit, let's talk a little bit about where you can find the volunteer pool. So everybody should have your organisation already attached to your personal profile, okay? First, you need to go to your personal profile. You can find that if you click on any of the pages. In the top right hand corner, it'll either have your initials or it may have an image of you. As you can see here, it's got my image. So I click on that and then the community organisations drop down underneath both that I'm connected to. And here you can see I'm connected to Volunteer Cambs and Hunts Forum. I'm going to be looking for volunteers today for Volunteer Cambs. So I click on the Volunteer Cambs page and this brings up the profile of Volunteer Cambs. Now, if you look on the left-hand side, you will see that it says search potential volunteers, as well as activities, people, teams, photos, notifications, settings, meetings, forms, files, analytics, and data. So this is the section that we're going to be looking at today, search for potential volunteers. Now, if you've got an activity, and in particular, it may be that you enter the volunteer pool through the activities tab, which means clicking on activities and then finding the volunteer role. And at the top, it will say search for volunteering opportunities. Either way, you've got to go through your organisational profile one way or the other. You also need to make sure that the role that you're looking to fill with these potential volunteers is already added to your organisation for a later date of when you start reaching out. So this is what the volunteer portal looks like. Once you're on the page, it'll look something a little bit like this. This is a mocked up version, so none of these individuals actually exist. There's no details being given, and if you start reading the profiles, you'll see that there seems to be a running theme. But you should see a number of images or initials, names and profiles, and they all have a reach out button attached to them. Everyone that shows up on the portal wants to volunteer within your geography area, and they've also not been on the system for more than 6 months. This is worth noting, and it is also worth noting when that member actually joined Volunteer Cambs, because they will be the most engaged in checking for profile messages, etc. So let's look at this page in a little bit more detail. In the top left-hand side corner, you'll see causes, activities, and search for an activity. Here you can click down to search for certain causes and activities which relate to your organisation. If you've gone through the activities tab and actually through looking for potential volunteers for a certain role, these will have already been ticked for you, so you'll already see them underneath. If there is a role that you are looking to search for, you can also look for that in the search for an activity. All volunteers are asked to fill in their profile with information about themselves. Some give more information than others. You can search through these individuals and have a read of what they are looking to be doing. But don't forget to click Show Additional Details, as this will show you more information about the individual, such as what it is they're looking to support with. You'll also be able to see the languages that they speak and how far they stated they wanted to volunteer from their home. This is particularly helpful if you're in a rural setting and you know that transport links aren't great. Once you've found someone you think you'd be a good fit, then it is worth reaching out. You do this by clicking on the tab Reach Out, where you'll be required to state which role you're suggesting they support with. This is why it's so important to make sure that your activity that you're wanting to link this individual with is actually already on Volunteer Cambs and you're really happy, because you'll be sending them that role. So reaching out is really important part, and the bit which if done well really makes this exercise worth it. It's really important, as this can come out of the blue, this message, it doesn't come across as a scam or a cold call. Well, it is basically a cold call, that you're approaching that individual because you feel they'll be suitable for your organisation or group. This means making your reach personal, perhaps asking about their previous volunteering, informative. What is it that you do in the wider sense? And asking a question, maybe being curious about them. So asking more about what they're volunteering that they've done in the past, but also maybe referencing things in their profile. Some groups may have templates which example their organisation, such as we are blah, 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 and we do XXX, supporting communities in YYY, for instance. And you may want to cut and paste this into every message. That's absolutely fine. I do that, but make sure that that isn't just what you say and that you actually add those personal and curious bits around that template. While the system does its best to find volunteers that are suited close to you, things can go wrong or situations for people can change. So it is worth checking that the geography and the travel for this role is suitable for that person. If not, perhaps suggest other options in your organisation. If you're a big one, if you're a small one, maybe you'll know some groups within that area of Cambridgeshire that they can volunteer that you can pass them across to. Let's face it, volunteers are hard to come by, and so let's share this precious resource. We see time and time again on Volunteer Cambs, however, that when someone applies for a role, a generic message pops up saying, "Thank you so much for your interest in our organisation. Here's another hoop to jump through." Now, most of the time, this is a new website that they have to look for, a link, or somewhere else that they have to now go, or person to contact. This, in particular, when it comes to volunteer pool reach out, is not appropriate, as it makes that message seem even colder and even more like possibly a scam. So please make sure that you actually make that opportunity reach out really personal and actually wanting to make more contact and have a conversation with that individual. You can then move them on to the site where you may want them to fill a form out, etc., after you've created that relationship with that individual. Now, finally, you can't message loads of people all on the same day. There is a number of individuals that you can reach out to as such per day, and therefore we suggest that you really do pick carefully and that you do this or maybe on a weekly basis to make sure that you actually do make a real big impact regarding who you are contacting. And actually, some will come back, some won't come back. So here are our top tips. So before you go off and start recruiting volunteers through the pool, then have a think. We have people joining the pool daily, so put something in your diary to have a browse, maybe on a weekly basis. Look at when people are joined and where they're interested in, and contact those most likely to reply to your organisation. And remember to get back to them as quickly as possibly they got back to you. Keep conversations as quick as possible, and try and have a phone call with them where possible, as this is a really good way to be able to build that relationship quickly, hear more about what they do, explain what you do, and then be able to send them the forms or the extra sites, etc., to move that person along to becoming a volunteer for you. We all know that people volunteer with their hearts, so please do make sure that all your communications are warm and welcoming and echo your group's values. So log on and have a look at the portal today. And if you have any issues or questions, remember that we're always here to support you. So come and find us at info@volunteercambs.org.uk.